Hey everyone, welcome to Book of Katherine. So I am here to talk to you a little bit today about how you can empower yourselves, not just to restore your wealth again, but how to get information again. They're tied to the same thing. So you cannot start to regain your wealth until you start getting information. I mean, by now, I'm sure you've realized if you've been reading my Twitter feed and been seeing all the research that I post, because generally what I do on my Twitter feed is I post research that is being heavily censored on the internet. Like whatever's being heavily censored online, I post there. Whatever's try to be hidden from you, I try to post those things that haven't been able to be censored yet, and I try to get them to you. And basically through that research, you've seen us, we've kind of all grown as a community together, but as the facts have been lining up and the research together, we've really learned and put the dots together, and a really, really clear pattern has come together, and everything's lining up, and now it's not so confusing. Like now it's not kind of like, what is this chaotic world, and the world is kind of seem crazy, and we all seem like things are, we all hate each other and we're all divided. And actually, no, we're learning that it's all manufactured. Like everything down to the last dot and T is manufactured. And not only is it manufactured, but we know exactly how it's manufactured. Like we know exactly how it's manufactured. Not only do we know it's manufactured, but we know who's manufacturing it. We know the names, we know the businesses, and we know the legislation that's doing it. And we know how to vote in order to make sure it doesn't happen again. And that's absolutely incredible. I mean, that is the power of good research and digging, and the brave souls who are actually out there putting the information online. And because it takes incredible bravery to do that today. And so I'm really, really impressed at the people who are out there and being kind of like the lone wolf voices, because right now it's really, really easy to be the person. It's really, really easy. You can make a lot of money. Like well, I don't even think it's money so much. It's just, you can just make an easy life for yourself by going out there and selling just what the 1% wants you to sell. Like just keep pushing it. But they don't see what's at the end of that line. Like it's very clear what's at the end of that line. We've seen what's at the end of that line with Venezuela, because it all played out in Venezuela in 1999. We saw the whole thing play out with the exact same slogan, the exact same phrases, the exact same celebrities, and the exact same companies. And then we saw what happened to the country, and we just saw what happened to the people, and all the wealth got robbed, and it was just the land was pillaged and raped, and the wealth was just stolen. And what Venezuela was such a, I mean, I'll link the Prager, everything is explained in the Prager University video right here. But there's also another amazing video where you actually get to see video of what Venezuela looks like right now, like the things that the media is censoring offline. It was really hard for these guys to do it. It was really, really hard, and they put their lives in danger to do it, because most of the people that are going down there are journalists that are being heavily paid by the 1% in order to make it look good, in order to sell it to us. And so they get put up by the nice socialists, and they're like, oh, it's the people representing, things like that. And so I'll link theirs right here so you can actually see what it's like there, and how the shelves are empty, why they're losing all that weight, what's really happening to people, why all the people are losing all of that weight, and why they're so thin and emaciated, and why they're not finding food to eat. But what wasn't shared on either of those videos is that Venezuela is an extremely rich country. Like there's a reason that it was gone after. I mean, it has so many resources. It is very similar to America, which is why Twitter has it like on its side. Like it promotes Twitter. It doesn't promote any other vote anywhere. There's like hundreds of countries all over the world, and many of them have votes, but Twitter doesn't promote those votes. Twitter promotes Venezuela's vote, because they want to vote socialist, because the 1% wants that money. At the end of the yellow brick road, they want to stay socialist. They do not want the wealth to be distributed. In a socialist government, the wealth isn't distributed. The wealthy get to just keep all of it. And Venezuela is so, so rich, just like America. It has so many resources. It has amazing resources. It has all that it needs to be a very, very wealthy country, just like America. But under, and I think I said I'll link that up here. If I didn't link it, then I'll link it right here. The video of what it's like in there. But there is a video by Dick Morris that talks about how wealthy Venezuela is. And he's saying that, that we were funding it, like we were actually subsidizing the socialist government, which is not something we ever used to do. I mean, we used to really separate ourselves from communist countries and stay away from that because of how horribly they treat their people. I mean, way more deaths happened because of communists than ever happened because of Hitler. Like, it's like 10 times more, right? Like, every single socialist country, millions die. Every single one. Like, you think, if they say it's just about getting it right. Well, I haven't seen a proposal for a new constitution. Like, they all say we want a new government, but no one's proposed a new constitution, and that's because they already have one. And that's Agenda 21, which was already made into law by the UN in 1992, which is what we're going to talk about today, just a little bit, in order to give you the information that I have for you, how to find the good information. So how to find the good information. So anyway, there is a video by Dick Morris where he actually talks about how we're subsidizing that. That's right here. And anyway, so those are 3 videos that are really good to learn about Venezuela and how the 1% are really, when you see all the things that they're pushing on us, they really want us to be. That's why when David Harrowitz says that, like, the DNC is no different than the Communist Party. If it's really interesting, I'll link an article down below. They were saying, like, a professor got up in front of the students and he read from the Communist Party manual, and then he read from the DNC party, and he asked the students to differentiate, and the students couldn't do it. Like, the students couldn't tell which one was the Communist Manifesto and which one was the DNC party. They could not tell the difference. There is no difference. There is no difference. And that's because the 1% does run it. Like, Google runs it, Amazon runs it, Microsoft runs it. I mean, they're all the wealthiest companies in the world. They're going to make way more money off of a socialist government. They can just pillage our land just like Venezuela. And that's why the UN wanted that for the entire world. They wanted to develop the entire world and just take the riches of the world. And that's very easy to do when you have, like, a World Wide Web and an internet, and you can just put out the news, just like Hitler did in Germany. In Germany, that's how everyone was like, how did Hitler do it? If you go to the Museum of Tolerance and you look at the Museum of Tolerance, they actually did a whole museum exhibit on how Hitler did it. And you walk in, I'll never forget it, and they're like, this is what it was like for the people of Germany. You have to understand. And you would sit on a bench, and the bench actually had people from the TV, from the newspapers, to the loudspeakers, and in all, like, they had 6 different ways one message was blaring, like, Jews are all these things. Well, what's different now? Like, we've got TV programming, we've got Twitter, we've got Facebook, we've got online, everything online. The online is completely owned by them. Like, tell me where the conservative voice is. Like, tell me where any other voice, tell me where a Democratic voice is. Like, tell me where those voices are. They're not. There is one communist voice across all spectrums. Like, across all spectrums. There is, like, the DNC does say, like, oh, we want to take from the rich, but they're being paid by the rich in order to do that because the socialist government gives them so much more money. And so, people are voting in droves for DNC because they think, oh, we're going to take from the rich, except they don't know that the rich loophole was never closed by the DNC for 8 years when they had power. Like, no, they raised taxes on the middle class. They wiped the middle class completely out of existence, but they never closed that one loophole. Like, they raised taxes on absolutely everyone. Never mind the fact that our country founded was based on no taxation. So, my point is that how did they do this? How did they do this? And they did this on controlling our information. So the whole key in order to kind of get your wealth back and to get our nation back is to get our information back. Because Hitler couldn't have done it if he didn't have control over the information. That's my point. Hitler could not have done it if he didn't have control over the information that everyone saw, heard every single day. So it's so vital and important that you start getting the information that they are trying to cover up. Just basically information, like some kind of other than their voice. A voice other than the 1%'s voice, something other than their script, something that isn't from open society, something that isn't paid for by a 1% billionaire. And if you really think about it, where is that? Where can you find that? Even the internet, even Fox News stories are wiped. Like, they have the power to do that. They have the power to wipe them off, right? And there are even other sites that we're going off to and things like that. And they just get court orders and they wipe off that information as well. Like, so they have amazing control at controlling the internet. There are just ways that they can make sure that you don't hear anything and that you don't even know about. That's why George Soros poured so much money into who you vote for, like who voted for what judges. Like that's why I poured so much money into judges, and you're seeing that outcome every time you see a judge and go, what the heck were they ruling that way for? Yeah, he funded judging too. Like that, billions can go a long, long way. It's very, very important. That's why I say the greatest part of all of this program is to get your vote, which is why registering to vote and then changing your vote over, like changing your vote over is everything to however they don't want you to vote. That's everything. It's your greatest trump card. And then eliminating your registrations in other cities and counties where you were registered before, because that's what's being used for voter fraud. I'll give you one last video. It's right here of where Dick Morris presents to you, like the report. We find out that there's 3.5 million votes cast more than there are people. And that video is right here. 3.5 million more votes more than there are people. Do you remember how I said Google was wiping off all the voting fraud videos? And I said that that's because of the DHS report that's coming out soon. Do you remember how I said the DNC was like, he sued all of the president's efforts to find out about voter fraud in the election, and they've been stopping him at every single corner in all 50 states. They sued him. And I was like, that's because of what they'll find. And they found it. 3.5 million more votes cast. You know how they can do that? By hacking into the machines. Every machine has a USB opening in the back. A USB port in the back. Why? Why is there an open USB port in the back of every voting machine? And why in every DNC state are the voting machines owned by the company that George Soros owns? Like, why? Why is that? Why are DNC states, that's why you have to vote for Republican governors. You have to, because things like this happen. Then it's not you, the people, that owns it. It's just a billionaire that doesn't even, he's not even a citizen of America. You know what I mean? So it's just the billionaires club. Like, we'll just call them the billionaires club. So anyway, how do we get it back? We need to get our information back. And this is the way to do it. So anyway, in 1992, like, I'll just show you one more time, like the information chart. Like, we know our wealth left in 1992 because of Agenda 21, right? So this is the reason I'm pointing this out. This is literally, like, this is how close we were. This is the 1%, and then this is the bottom 90%. This is the top 10%'s wealth, and this is how close our gap was all the way in U.S. history. And then 1992 happens, and their wealth skyrockets, and it goes plotting. What happened in 1992? Bill Clinton happened in 1992. Bill Clinton and Agenda 21 at the UN. And then they put the internet in place. Like that, if that 1992 chart doesn't tell you that Agenda 21 is literally the key to all of it, and that the DNC is called, because remember when I said listen to the book Game of Thorns by Doug Weed, and remember afterwards I was like, and now we know when the press got taken over, 1992. We know it all happened in 1992. Isn't that interesting? That's when the press got taken over by the liberal media, when all became liberal, our wealth completely died. So that's why it's so important to take our information back, and I have a key of how to do it. So look what I found. Ooh, I'm so excited. Okay, so that's the key date, 1992. 1992. Also, anything before Facebook, like 2002, right? Like, there's a big change there too. But 1999, like earlier than that, but really 1992 is really good, solid, like research before then, before the money. Because, the Sacklers came in 96, and the drug companies, they quit doing procedures, all that. So anyway, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about this exciting thing. So, there is this thing in California now. I don't know if it's happening in other states. I assume that it is, but in California, at least in the communities that I was in, they're just, God, I can feel like some of you guys are going to think I'm crazy, but maybe not, because it's been a while. But there is a belief amongst literally all, like the entire community, and I had to watch it happen, that it is safe to drink alcohol when you are pregnant. Like, there are rules, like, in this certain month it's okay to drink alcohol. Not only that, but as the years went on, there was a belief that it's not only safe, but it's good for the baby to drink alcohol, to drink wine. And they were like, oh, this kind of wine, that kind of wine. And I was just like, where is this coming from? I've never heard this. And so I would watch pregnant mothers breastfeed, and I would have to watch the babies swell up and scream. It was just, it's traumatizing, to be quite frank, because I was a teacher and I was trained and everything. And then, like, finally, when we started doing, like, our, and let me tell you why that is, because in California, there's news stories, like, I'd find them online, and they'd say, like, studies say it's now safe to drink, like, drinking while pregnant is not dangerous. And I bet if you sued them and got the court documents, you'd find out that that was just a paid ad. But there's a whole documentary on, like, studies and how they're all bought. You cannot say studies say anymore. Like, no study is a real scientific study, like, anymore. Like, when they anyone that the press puts out, like, it's part of the 1% propaganda, they can make a study say anything. That's why they say polling results. I don't trust any of those polls. Look what it said about the election. I knew once candidates were announced, I knew who was going to win. I just knew. It was like, I knew because I knew how much voting fraud was going on, but I knew this and whatever. And, like, I before the DHS report came out, I even have a gut instinct of how much percentage was actually false votes on like one side. And so that's why I didn't say anything until I had research to give you, like that Medium article, which I'll link down below. And that Medium article shows that it's only the DNC that has been cheating on voter fraud with the actual machines across the board, like with the Bernie Sanders votes, like, and years and years and years of votes that they've been cheating, and the RNC 0, which is why I said switch to RNC. It has nothing to do with anything other than they say don't do it. Whatever you do, don't do it. And the fact that they have never, ever cheated on voting fraud. I mean, imagine if they had. You think they'd be on it? Heck yeah, they'd be on it. So anyway, so my point is that, so back to the information. So the baby thing. So then we get to our doctor when we start doing, like, prenatal. Oh, and so what happened was that I believe that was the case. And then I remember when I went to the guy, do you remember how I mentioned in my video about, well, I have a video on my husband and I, and when we got together, and I said there was a therapist that I went to that finally unlocked it all, went back to my first 4 years, and I got off all the meds, everything, and just, like, got to the root of it and just yanked it all out, rewired me. And he would get people off of marijuana use addictions. He'd get off of everyone's addictions. He'd just get them off in, like, days, like, and it would just be over because he went to the root. He just went to the root and did it. Stopped messing around with the leaves. And, you know, read read the book Drama of the Gifted Child, which has nothing to do with gifted children or whatever, but read that book and learn how to find a good psychologist. Learn why a lot of people become psychologists, so you know how to look for the good ones, right? So anyway, and I talk about that in Good Doctors too. So, but that book really helped me. But this guy was actually a good psychologist, and for the right reasons. He's absolute genius. And he just was like, he heard me talk about the drinking alcohol while you're pregnant in passing, and he had a freak. He had a massive freak, like a freak attack. I'll never forget it. Like, he visibly freaked out. Now, it's funny because he and I have the same personality profile, like in the Do What You Are video, the one after Jordan Peterson video that I did for you. So if I have any links left, I'll link it right here. And if not, I'll link it down there. So YouTube only gives me so many, and I do so much research. It drives me nuts. I'm like, I need a link more for you here. So just go down below. So, anyway, and I'm going to try and do a blog so that I can just give you, like, blog posts that has all the research so we don't have to keep relinking everything. So, but yeah, so he just went nuts, and he went nuts in a way that I would go nuts because he has the same personality profile, so he's an extrovert. So he, like, went nuts the way I would go nuts. So if you can imagine that. But it left an impression on me, and he was like, you should be calling child services. Now, what was interesting is that in California, we learned to do that. Like, we would call child services or we talk to the police, and all the police, when it comes to alcohol in California, at least in, like, the 3 districts that we talked to, and northern and southern, they were like, they'd just be better off in that home anyway. Like, they just were like, no, they're better off in that home. They did not care one bit. Not a bit. Not when it came to alcohol. You know why? Alcohol is a big industry. A big industry. Now, if you're in a conservative home, trying to actually, like, you know, discipline your kids, that's a different story. Like, that's scary as heck. That's scary as heck. Oh, so anyway, so basically I learned a big lesson that day. I learned a big lesson from his reaction. So when we went for our own, like, counseling for actually getting pregnant, I was like, oh, I'm going to talk to a fertility doctor. Let me ask her. And she was really hesitant. She was like, don't do it. Like, don't do it. But like, Brett, and she just, but you could tell she didn't want to say. Like, she didn't want to say it was great, but and you know what she never said? And I'll show you what she never said. So all of that leads me up to, I could just see, I was like, wow, even, and you know where she was at? She was at, like, you would be shocked at this. You would be shocked. She was the head. She was the head of OBGYN at the top 3 in the nation. And she wouldn't say. She, like, wouldn't say. And I knew, like, she wanted to be kind of like PC about it. And I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't ever believe it. And then, so because of all of that, like, I was researching, and now here I am, like, older and wiser and everything. And I'm researching with you guys, and I'm learning, and I've been listening to Jordan Peterson and other people and thinking about the things they're saying. And I was like, man, we really need access. Oh, and then I did something. That's what it is. And someone in DC asked me for a textbook that I learned from in college. And I was like, oh, it was the best, because I learned at this amazing college, and it was the leading textbook in the world. And it had been the leading textbook for like 30 years. And I wanted to find it. And guess what? You can't find even the professor's name. Google has wiped the history of universities. Anything before the big diversity shift, like Facebook was formed in 04, 05, they had the big Roaring Rage thing. They switched out all the things. Clearly my guy got kicked out. They won't even say his name. You can't find his name anywhere. They won't mention it. And all history before is gone. Gone. It was like by accident. It took me days to find the textbook. And I was like, this is supposed to be history. But because of that search, I learned that almost all history before 5 years ago is gone. He who owns history owns the world. And so during that, I started getting kind of panicked. So I started being like, okay, 1992. And then I found that chart, and I was like, okay, I need to get the information. And so when Google would bring up any other textbooks on any other subject, I kind of was like, I kind of want to grab it, you know? And I ran into this book, and I was like, ooh, 1992. And it wasn't a book, it was a paper. It said it was a paper. It said it was a paper in 1992, and one seller was selling it. And it was like nothing. It was like $6 or $11 or something. And I was like, I'm grabbing it. You know why I grabbed it? Because it was from 1992. And I knew the research in there would be untouched by Agenda 21. When that wealth gap went like this, and untouched by the liberal agenda, like as much as I could. Like, I just knew it would be outside of the web, outside of the matrix. I knew it would be information. Like, all the librarians are selling off the library books. You can't get them anymore. These are the stuff they're giving away. So I was like, I want to see what's in it. I really want to see what's in it. And I got it. I got it. And look what it's on. So it is Recent Developments in Alcoholism. Volume 9, Children of Alcoholics. Oh my gosh. Genetic predisposition, fetal alcohol syndrome. And I was like, I haven't heard that term before. Like, it kind of rang a bell from when I was really, really young. And I was like, she didn't even say those words. The doctor, the OBGYN. Why do you think that is? Do you think the 1% controls the funding into those hospitals? She was the head. Who does it benefit? Who does it benefit to not say that alcohol causes fetal alcohol syndrome? Who does it benefit? It only benefits one party. And that's the alcohol industry. Who makes more money than cocaine or marijuana? But you'll never hear that. I'll never forget when I went to a talk. And it was some guy going on and on and on. And he went on and on about this drug problem, gave a number. And then this drug problem gave a number. And then gave this drug problem, gave a number. And I was like, wow. And then he's like, and alcohol, blah, blah, blah. And of course, I was in Silicon Valley at the time where alcohol is like the drink of the day. Like you have to be, like it's just everything there, right? But of course, now I think marijuana's replaced it. Like newest report in San Francisco, on every street corner is a sign of how to get marijuana delivered to your door. And I just want to make a really big point that that's the DNC state. 45 years, that is their future for you. If you want marijuana deliveries on your porch and banners for marijuana, like that is third world country crap, you guys. Like that's what we're supposed to be protected from. Not marijuana deliveries on every corner. That's a dealer on every corner. Legalized dealing on every corner. Like that's every corner there's a banner for like how to get marijuana to your home. Just delivered to your home. The streets are just plastered with that. Who does that make money for? Does that protect you? How many people? I mean, that's the DNC vision of your future. A socialist, pharmaceutical high. Like, does that sound prosperous for you? Does that sound like money in your pocket? And then this. Doctors unwilling to say the words fetal alcohol syndrome. Now, do you think I would have learned those words if I hadn't gotten a book from 1992? And not only that, like I hadn't even read the cover. I opened it up. Like when I got it, I was so excited. I was just like, oh, information. Because I knew like real research kind of stopped around that time. I mean, you saw the chart and we know what happened. And I remember everyone got switched out, like the heads of everything got switched out. I mean, look what they did on the first day of office. Like they switched out everything for paid people to make money. Like everything was for sale on the very first day of office. Everything was for sale. Like down to the travel office was for sale. Like, and that means the health industry was for sale, which is why the Sacklers got in and made a new drug and pain clinics were invented. Like, oxycodone didn't exist before them. And our industry, they put in new people, positioned for sale, got it in, all right. Now we'll start telling doctors, procedures are bad, they hurt, oh, it'll only make you worse. All right, take this drug, and now look at it. And now magically we have a chart that, hey, we're spending more money on our healthcare than ever, but have zero return for it. That sounds like a good payoff to me, baby. That gets Agenda 21 what they want. 95% depopulation, which I'll show you that chart in a minute. Anyway, we'll get back to this. So the way I found out about it is I started just reading through the table of contents. I was like, ooh, this is great research. It's like getting news, like real news for the first time in decades. And I was like, ooh, and I came across it like right straight out the gate. And it has like, right straight out the gate, fetal alcohol syndrome is number 2. And it has like 3 pages. Like 3 pages. Like prenatal and postnatal growth retardation, facial dysmorphology, immune system deficiencies, endocrine and reproductive system dysfunction, central nervous system and behavior effects, altered placental function, like organic abnormality, like there's so much. It just keeps going on. God, I can't read it anymore. What is my point? Get this. Get books before 92. Get papers before 92. Start building a library and read from that. Because that's real news. Information is power. Information is power. They're selling off the library books. Well, go freaking get them. Get Feeling Good by Dr. Burns. Get the shortened one, the one that's like 14 steps to a better life, healthier life. If you are a faith-based person, go get Safe People. Get Boundaries. Heck, honestly, I know so many people who are not faith that read that book, Boundaries. It's like a huge seller with non-faith people, because it's the only book that writes about like how to have good boundaries in your life that make you like go out there and be successful. Oh my gosh, like that's a huge selling book. They don't push it anymore or whatever, but Boundaries was a huge thing. And if you can deal with like a few scriptures, yeah, you read Jordan Peterson. Just think of it as mythology. And man, like Boundaries will change your life. But like, forget that. Like, go get the stuff. Go get the research. Get the research before 92, because it's not like this has been disproven. Like, this was even like just stuff of like, it was cataloging like the history of the last like 100 years of research or whatever. It went through adult child of alcoholics. Notice that we don't talk about that anymore. And I can't wait to do a video on that for you about the alcoholic family system, which is everything. Oh, and when that speaker was doing that thing, he listed off, we were in Silicon Valley. I didn't finish that thought. So we were in Silicon Valley where like everyone's drinking or whatever and stuff like that. And so I couldn't believe it. And then I was like, oh, right, we're in Silicon Valley. But he was like, okay, so this drug has this much, this drug, the nation spends this much on this drug on this drug. And then he was like, and this much on alcohol. He like mumbled it under his breath as he went on to something else. But the number was like 886 billion. And I was like, what? Like, it was so much more than any of the other drugs. It made the other drugs look like this big. So, but I'm saying in any area, like this was just what caught my eye. Like I'm going to get other papers on anything. Like I finally found the textbook. I'm getting that. Like I'm just like, I'm getting my library back. Like I'm going to get a library of real information and I'm going to feed off that. And then in the meantime, like I was like, I really just need to get offline. Because you know what I realized? I was like, yeah, I disconnected my cable. But I still get on Twitter every day. Which is no different than signing into CNN. Do you know when I realized that? It's when I searched for Jordan Peterson's Twitter handle. And I saw the news that came up and I was like, right. And I was like, when you realize that every day online is piping in CNN to your bedroom, it's just so much hate and negativity and it's not reality. I don't want to live in that reality. Have you ever noticed, like, when you call people up for, like, help, have you ever noticed how hard it is to get good customer service anymore? Like, anyone you call anywhere, they're always in a bad mood. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because they're piping this crap into us at all times? Like, now have you ever noticed some people are like, you know, are you hooked up? Are you hooked in? Oh, she's not hooked in yet. Oh, are you hooked up? Are you hooked up? Oh, well, I need a place to hook in. I need a place to plug in. Are you plugged in yet? I need a place to plug in. You run around the airport going, I need to plug in. I need to plug in. I need to plug in. And we see all these little cartoons of a guy at his computer desk, and he's got a computer and a screen, and we've got 6 different screens, and we've got and a printer and everything like that. And I thought it was so interesting because the DNC has this pattern, the 1%, I shouldn't say the DNC, but the 1% have this pattern of like putting things out there. Like the 1984 came out and it like was like, okay, this is something that actually is coming. All right. What about the Matrix? You think it is just accident that they gave you the red pill and the blue pill? And what ultimately happens in those stories? If you watch all 3, Who wins? Who wins at the end of all 3 stories? What are they subconsciously putting into you? Like, they give you hope, and then they give you the next 2 stories, and everyone has an internal dialogue that says, no matter what, we're going to lose. No matter what, we're going to lose. Like, we can fight for a while, but ultimately, we're going to lose. We're going to lose. In that movie, remember all the plugs that they had into them to plug in the electronics? Like, tell me, are you able to live if you unplug everything? How many ways are you plugged into their web? They literally have a web, but we choose to hook into it. That's the difference. It's not without our knowledge. We choose to hook up to it. Like, we choose to plug in, and we plug in with just as many dots. We have just as many connectors. We have a TV, we have a laptop, we have a phone. And I'm like, I need to start taking more out. So I'm like, all right, I need to get a blog, because I'm noticing on Twitter, like, I'm reposting data now. And I'm like, no, I need to post it once on a blog, and then when I need to repost something, I'll just share the blog post with you guys, so that I can spend more time offline, and then maybe I can write a book for you. Maybe I'll write How to Be Boss. Maybe I'll write Civil War. But I should practice what I preach and get offline as well. Because I'm learning how many stories they put out there, they know they're terrible stories. Like, I figured out that story about a guy, the FBI searching into punching a deaf one, I was like, that was just an outrage story. That was just made to get me heated and outraged. And it did, and it worked. And I was like, and it got me spending my energy unproductively, spinning my wheels. And as long as we're spinning our wheels angry, we are not producing like the 1950s life that made us tremendously wealthy, which means we compete with them. I feel like competing with them, don't you? They have libraries. You think they have books after 1992? I don't think so either. Let's start building ours together. You're going to see them online. Like, it'll just say a paper. Like, this one wasn't sold like this. It didn't look like a book. I was shocked. It was a paper. They said they were selling a paper. Also, really try and buy from Walmart if you can. They'll list it at the bottom, but like, they're the only conservative 1%er. You know, if you want to buy from someone else, just don't buy from Amazon, because they fund like the communism. Like, it's really, really bad. Like, number 2 on Forbes top 400 list, but all they do, the second thing he cares about more than sales. And if you watch about it on Google, like, they're really unfair. Like, Google really works. Those top 10 billionaires, they really use the web to like help each other out and only each other. They really go against capitalism. Like, they anger about capitalism, but they actually don't allow capitalism to work online. We actually don't have a capitalist society. We have an elite society. So it's much like a monarchy in very many ways. And so, like, they kind of have, like, we have the ruling class. And, yeah, I think it's going to be really good if you just look for papers and textbooks and things like that. And if it says a paper, like, Google will show it up as just a paper. It'll say, do you want to buy this paper, want to purchase this paper? Just buy it. It'll be like, $10 or $11 or whatever, and you buy the paper, and it'll arrive like this. It'll arrive like the book or whatever and stuff like that. So be surprised, but the whole point is to get the information. And it's information that they are trying to hide. And you'll know if there's not a lot of them left. Heck yeah. Like, that big theory that Jordan Peterson found, the big one that's like explained everything about, like, the big one, the one that unveiled the DNC's big lie, like the big not Prager, but I can't remember it. The thing with the P, that big one, the Pareto distribution. He didn't read that in a book from today. No, he didn't. He had to learn that from like an 89-year-old or something like that who'd read a book when he was younger. And I was like, right. I'm trying to get my hand on those books because knowledge is freaking knowledge. Research just builds on the knowledge before. You know what I'm saying? But they stopped researching after 92. Like freaking climate change. Look at that. Like even the UN admitted in 2013 that all of their charts for climate change were wrong. They admitted it. But they didn't change the narrative. I'll link that down below too because I'm sure I'm out of links. All right. I love you guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye. Oh, thumbs up, right? And please donate to the server fund. We're so close. And I know you think everybody else has donated, but seriously, we have so many views. We have so many views. And if you just gave $1 per view, $1 per view, we would be there. We would be there. We would be there. Please, because I don't make any money on these videos. YouTube refuses to monetize. So like none of these videos. So they are all free. So I have no form of income from my videos, like zero. Only the little PayPal link. That is the only form of income. So it's the only way we can make it. So I'm not on Facebook. I'm not anything else. I will never join Facebook again. I am happy and free and loving my life off of it. So, and yeah, and it turns out Patreon kind of censors off women and stuff like that. We learned that in Crash Override. So I'm like, I'll get on there and then they'll just censor me right off. Are you kidding? So this is it. So anyway, so give it a thumbs up and I love you and I'll give you another kiss. All right, now say bye-bye. Bye.